Yesterday we focused on subtracting integers. Today we're going to use integers again with all operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. We're going to start with multiplying and dividing. Let's see if you can remember the rules that we learned about that. For example, when we have a positive number and we want to multiply times another positive number, is that going to equal a negative or a positive? Positive times positive equals positive. That's just regular multiplication. For example, 3 times 4. A positive 3 times a positive 4. In elementary school, you learned 3 times 4 is 12. There are no negatives involved in that problem at all. So positive times positive equals positive, and it's the same for division as well. If we wanted to divide, we could do 12 divided by 3. There are no negatives at all. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And you might remember that that's a fact family right there. Because if you have 3 times 4 equals 12, then you could do 12 divided by one of those numbers, like 12 divided by 3, and it'll give you the other factor, 4. Because 3 times 4 is 12. Fact family. Okay, but what if we throw a negative in there? Like, let's say we do a negative times a positive. Is that going to equal positive or negative? That will equal a negative because we put a negative into the problem. So negative 3 times positive 4 is going to give us negative 12. And again, it works like that for division also, because multiplication and division have the same rules for the way we handle the negative signs. So if it's a negative 12 divided by a positive 3, there was one negative in the problem, so we end up with a negative answer. Okay, so far we've done two positives multiplied together or divided, a negative and a positive multiplied together or divided, and the last option would be if they're both negative, both of the factors are negative. So if I have a negative times a negative, is that going to equal positive or negative? It equals positive. And we talked about this. The reason that you get a positive from multiplying two negatives is because multiplying by another negative doesn't make it extra negative. What happens is, if we're standing on the number line, the one negative makes us go toward the negative side, but then multiplying by another negative is like flipping a switch to go the opposite direction. Every time you multiply by a negative, it makes you go the opposite way. So if we go to the negative side and then we multiply by another negative, it makes us go to the positive side. So a negative 3 times a negative 4 equals a positive 12. And again, it works like that for division too. Negative 12 divided by negative 3, a negative divided by negative equals a positive. Okay, so let's write multiplication and division follow the same rules. For positive and negative signs. Okay, multiplication and division follow the same rules. So these rules apply to both of those. Okay, draw a little line there, and we're going to go to addition now. adding. Okay, remember that when we learned how to add with positives and negatives, we said that there are a couple of tools we can use. We can use the number line. Number lines are good to use if you don't have to write a lot of numbers. But if you're using big numbers like 53 or 192, then drawing a number line can be too much work. But small numbers work great with the number line. Another way to add integers is to draw positives and negatives and circle zero pairs. So let's do a couple of problems. The first problem is going to be adding 3 plus 4. And if we can use the number line for this. If we add 3 plus 4, we start on 0, we add 3, 1, 2, 3, and we add 4. If that's a positive, which it is, that means we just keep going to the positive side. So we'd count 4 more spaces here, and of course 3 plus 4 is 7. We're just adding positives, so we just go to the right on the number line. But what if we have negatives? What if it's 3 plus negative 4? Well, we would start out at 0 again, and we would go 3 positives, 1, 2, 3, and then we would add 4 negatives. Adding negatives means going toward the negative side. 1, 2, 3, 4. It ends up with negative 1. Remember, the other way to do it is to draw the picture. So if we had 3 positives, we could do 3 positives on our paper. And then 4 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see we have more negatives than we do positives. These are zero pairs. 0, 0, 0 plus negative 1 means we have negative 1 as our answer. If we add both numbers that are negative, negative 3 plus negative 4, that means we're just going to the negative side on the number line. So a negative times a negative, negative plus a negative means we're going to be going to the negative side. Negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and then adding 4 more negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4 more negatives. We just get a lot of negatives. It becomes negative 7. And it's the same if we draw a picture. Negative 3 plus negative 4 would mean we have 3 negatives, and then we're adding 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. I can't circle any of these as zero pairs because there are no positives here. A zero pair has to have a positive and a negative, but here there's only negatives. It's just 7 negatives altogether. Okay. The last thing is subtracting. This is what our lesson was about yesterday, so I'll just go quickly. As a quick review again, subtracting integers. If we have 3 minus 4, your initial reaction might be, oh, that's 1. But actually that's not true. It's not 1 because if I have 3 Dr. Peppers and I try to take away 4 Dr. Peppers, that's impossible. I only have 3 of them. So a good thing to do is to change this problem into an addition problem. So what we can do is draw 2 lines to change it to addition. We have to draw a line on the subtraction sign. That's our first line. And what we do is we're changing it to add, and then we change the sign of the next number. This is a positive, so we're going to change it by making it negative. So now it's 3 plus negative 4, just like we were doing up here. 3 plus negative 4 would be 3 positives plus 4 negatives, and we have our zero pairs. We end up with negative 1 as our answer. Okay, what if we've got a negative 3 minus a negative 4? Again, it's helpful to change these problems into addition problems. We never touch the first number, but we have to draw 2 lines. One of them makes it an addition problem, and then we change the sign of the next number. this negative becomes a positive. There's my 2 lines. So now negative 3 plus positive 4, negative 3 plus positive 4. I'm going to have an extra positive left over. 0, 0, 0, and a positive 1 is my answer. Okay, so that's how we use integers with all of the operations. Go ahead and do those problems on the Google document that I put in Google Classroom. And you can contact me if you have any questions.